Welcome to Night's Arcade. I'm Sleepless Night. We are in Hardspace Shipbreaker, and I'm going to let you know about the latest update, which is 0.3.1. Before we go any further, I just want to quickly apologise that there hasn't been much content on the channel since the new year. There've been a couple of things, but I'm reorganising a few things and also having a few serious sleep issues at the moment. But once I find out where we're going, there'll be more content coming up again, and we'll get back into a regular schedule. But it might be a bit spotty over the next couple of weeks. So, update 0.3.1. One of the first things that you'll notice right out of the gate when you come out of the hab and start your shift is that there is now a bay startup sequence, like a boot up sequence. If you look at the various elements, you can see down below you can see the barge is booting up now. And slowly activating, which is quite cool. But the same is true of the furnace and the processor. So the furnaces and processors on both sides start up. So there's now a cool little bay boot up sequence. Regarding the barge, if you notice when I look down at the barge there, I'll try and capture some of this. I don't know what I'll get and what I won't, but I'll capture some of this. Looking down at the barge, finally they have listened to the community. We've been talking for a long time. Community feedback has been talking about how the barge just isn't big enough. And this was never more true than when they introduced the Javelin. There's just too much stuff on the really, really big ships. And particularly if you're doing a race and you're trying to get through stuff, you don't really take the time to organize where it's going. Perhaps a little, but not quite as much as you might otherwise do. And that barge filled up really, really, really quickly. Well, they've now addressed that, finally. They've made the barge bigger, deeper, more than anything else, is what you'll notice. One of the other things about putting things into the barge is now that incorrect items are highlighted in red, and correct items are still connected to the incorrect items are highlighted in green until you separate them. Now, the only way I can really see this causing a bit of a problem at the moment is that one of the things that was, the feedback that you got from jettisoning things into the barge, from firing things down to the barge, and they would sort of lock, once they were registered by the barge, they would lock into place. And now that's gone. They just kind of bounce around between the electronic netting there. So, they only highlight in green when they've still got something attached to them that shouldn't be. And from my just quick experiments with the cargo hatch here, I noticed that the little hinges for the cargo hatch, those items separate by themselves after a while. I actually started cutting them off. I did this twice, and I started cutting them off both times. And the first time, before I could cut it off at all, the hinges just separated and the thing fell apart. And then I just lifted the main part of the frame for the hatch, which goes in the processor. I lifted it out. But the second time, I think it went before I got to the second hinge. It separated out, as you can probably see. Another major thing, on top of the fact that they've enlarged the barge and made it much, much deeper, is that the barge now clears between shifts. So even if you've got a ship that's really, really big and for some reason you think the barge is still not big enough, it's obviously big enough that that ship's going to take you more than one shift. Well, when you go into the hab, you go to sleep, you kick your boots off, whatever it is you do when you're inside your hab. You come out the shift the next day and the barge has been cleared. So everything that was in it before is gone. So in between shifts it's cleared, which makes sense, really. If these things are constantly shifting around, it does make sense that the barge will be cleared between shifts. So there you go. Not only is it bigger, but they now clear the thing between shifts. The winning narrative log contest from Discord user Snark has now been added into the game, so you'll come across it somewhere. If you were following the narrative log contest, you'll probably remember what his entry was. I did read it, but I don't. It's a while ago now, so I can't actually remember, but it's in there somewhere now. The demo charge tool has been hooked up to the durability system, so now the demo charge tool has durability the same as, your grappler or the cutter. They all have durability, and now the demo charge has that as well. And as the tool's durability drops, the detonator will become more and more faulty, which, is not always a major problem with the grappler, but you can imagine why that might cause some fun moments with the detonator. We'll see how that works out. I haven't come across that yet, but we'll see what happens. There is now theme-based ship lighting, apparently. So the interior lighting is different between industrial, civilian, and science ships. I did go in and try to show that. I noticed slight differences, only in the way that once you go over to the civilian ship, so when you go over to, I'm assuming this is what they're talking about, unless it's just chance that I've noticed it, but when you go over to a station hopper, get mackerel. I tested it out with the mackerels first. When you go to a station hopper, it has more of a sort of slightly more of a friendly kind of a yellowish, kind of almost sodium sort of glow rather than the harsh, cold blue that you get in the cargo ships. And the only thing I really noticed about the science vessel, so I went to look at the Science Gecko, and on the inside of the Science Gecko, it seemed to be glowing like a really bright blue. Like the lamps in there were extraordinarily bright. I don't know whether that was a fault or it's just one of the many things they've added in that can possibly be going on the blink as the ship gets older or what have you, or whether that is the difference between that lighting and the others. I don't know. Other little things, the thumbs up animation has been revamped. So the little thumbs up that you get when you complete a work order objective has been revamped. Why they've revamped that, I honestly couldn't tell you. I've got no idea. Because from it made me giggle a bit, actually. From looking at the thing, they just seem to have made it a bit more nerdy. Like, ha! Almost like a nerdy little salute. Yeah, like it snaps. I don't know why they've done that. Your guess is as good as mine. I have absolutely no idea. Now, one of the coolest things for me is that there is now, I was wondering when they were going to do this. I've been watching the Railgate for quite a while, and I was wondering when they were going to add this in, but they have now added in a Railgate launch sequence. So the Railgate now will periodically go through a launch sequence and launch ships deep into the solar system. So if you're new to the game, you don't know, the Railgate out there with the moon as the backdrop there, the Railgate that you can see out in the distance, if you look back behind the Master Jack and above the Master Jack, that is the way of long distance travel at speed. So it just fires like a rail gun, I guess. It just fires the ships and launches them deep into the solar system, and there is now a launch sequence to that. If you're afraid you're going to miss it, it is actually, I've noticed, it's preceded, the launch power-up of the Railgate is preceded by a little bit of crackling and radio chatter. So if you hear that little bit of crackling and odd radio chatter in the middle of nowhere, you can sort of jump outside if you're in a ship or whatever, or just turn around and you should be in plenty of time to see the sequence. It's reasonably slow, it takes a few seconds, so you'll probably get the time to sort of see it shoot things off into the distance, and that's quite cool to see. But that's about it. Most of the rest of them are just bug fixes. There's a whole long list of bug fixes, as there usually is. If I can remember, I'll link the changelog in the video description. And I will be back next week talking about, they've also made some major announcements about what's going to happen in the next update. So I'll be back next week. I'll make a separate video for it, and I'll talk about what's coming in the next update because it's kind of important. So yeah, stick around for that. I'll do that next week, but that's it for this video. You can follow me on Twitter at Knights_Arcade, or you can follow me on Facebook or Patreon. You can head over to the Knights Arcade Discord channel and chat with some of my community over there, or you can catch me live streaming currently every Wednesday and Saturday from 9 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. But if you don't want to do any of those things, like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, ring the notification bell to be notified every time I post new content, and leave a comment. I love those comments. But until next time, from Knights Arcade, this is Sleepless Night, saying nighty-night.